that's literally true. I was never in school other than in grade school with my sister.
Yeah.
I was always 3 or 4 years before she wasn't in high school. Well, she went to high school here, but she wasn't in Clover Park when I was there, when Dewey and I were there.
Was Harry Doon in your class?
Yes.
Woohoo!
I just went, as a matter of fact, last May I went to his funeral down.
Oh,
He died.
He died, yes.
my goodness. Well, he was a
Betty-
lively one.
Betty's still alive?
No, Betty had died some time ago, as well as her husband, Dan Ginder.
Some of his escapades were unforgettable. Huh?
Like running across the stage in Clover Park, his pants removed. Somebody pantsed him and he
You
took
mean
it
they
across the
streaked
stage
way
and he
back
came
then?
across the study hall. Now, this is all junior high toughness, you know. And as he grew to be an adult, he didn't improve too much.
Oh, that's too bad.
A good friend, though. We flew together during World War II.
What are your pictures about?
I know a lot of things, dear.
My picture's about
Tonight?
Well, we only
tonight.
talk about what
That's,
we do now.
Well, maybe it's time to put the.
have you got a machine?
It's right behind you.
Oh, my shadow's in there. And I will tell you what they're about. In 1930, and they say 34 on this,
The rains hit.
but I think it was in 33. We had a lot of rains and a lot of runoff from up above. And in those days, Clover Creek didn't have the same bed it does now. I mean, it was going in the same general area, but didn't have the sides on it. Had a flood, a deluge come down there, and it went across what is now the Lakewood Racket Club, where I just came from, and on over and went into Ponce de Leon, which is the other stream that goes in, which is a spring-fed stream up until that time. And so we ended up living on Ponce de Leon with some high water, and it will show in this, and I apologize for all this value about it. It's about a 4 or 5 minute deal, but it does prove that our basement was flooded, and where we lived, and it shows the water of Ponce de Leon, which is totally different than it is now. And in those days, before they put in the pipes they have now, we had a bridge across there, and it'll show where the water went right up to there. You know, if you've ever wanted to walk on water, you've heard that that's a rather famous thing. Somebody did that. And you had an opportunity to do that then. Then I'll show, there's another shot of it there. And then also a shot of the water as it came around the bend before it came by our house, where it was washing out underneath what used to be the Doughton house. And the Kays live there now. And it shows where the water was, the water was eroding to the extent that we had to put in, and this will show them putting in the trees to stop the erosion that was taking place, or that house would have gone down into the creek. Also show and Dewey, you may remember this, we used to have a tree house down there in the area. Well, they show the tree house leaning over the stream that we built as kids. And Norton Clapp up on the point looking down, you may have heard of him. He was there watching us. And let me see what else. And then we'll also show a little bit of the water flowing out of Chambers Creek and what had happened down there, because that was a deluge, of course. That was the only outlet to the lake. And what we were getting, what was coming into the lake was not only what we had, but also included the water that was also coming down in Clover Creek, which is overflowed. So it was, in those days, we didn't have the control over that.
Does Ponce de Leon go into the lake?
Pardon?
Does Ponce de Leon empty into the lake? or
It always
just
did,
flow?
yeah, it always
Oh,
did.
oh.
But by springs. And prior to that time, that water was so pure you couldn't believe it. And had a lot of fish and fish life that was different than exists now. And we used to have crawdads there, and we had a lot of life that doesn't exist. And there was an Indian, and we say Indian, you know, as kids, everything's Indian that happens that you don't recognize. But nevertheless, there was a trail that went up from where we live, at the mouth of the stream, or just inside the mouth of the stream, going on up towards what is now Gravely Lake Drive. Going there, we used to find arrowheads. It was not uncommon to find those. And also there were lady slippers. There were plants that don't even grow around here anymore. And
Violets.
yes, and they were
Violets
natural.
are still trying.
They were natural. I mean, we found them, and if we wanted to endear ourselves with our parents, my mother
We
particularly.
don't have the meadowlarks anymore, we don't have the bluebirds, we don't
Yeah.
No,
have
we
the
don't
frogs.
have any of those,
Killdeer.
that's
We
right.
used to hear the
Frogs.
frogs croaking all over the place.
It's tree frogs this time
Yeah,
of year,
uh-huh.
at night.
When did they rechannel Clover Creek?
Well, right after that.
Army engineers
Yeah,
did
right
that.
after that, 44. What they did,
They put an embankment
the
in.
Corps of Engineers came in, and they dug it out and put the banks on, so it would not go across any longer.
Because see, I live over in the Racket Club and on 58th Avenue.
Yeah.
And a few years ago when we had all that rain,
Mhm.
I got up that one morning and the street, it was just like a river. I mean, it was 6 feet up in my driveway. And that's from Clover Creek, you know, from over in McCourt area. And it was unbelievable. And that's why I wondered, they said at one time the creek ran like where 58th Avenue is
I don't know
now.
where 58th
Well, it's
Avenue,
the entrance into the Racket Club
Yeah.
Estates.
the Racket Club Estates.
Yeah, right
Well,
up, the
this
street
came,
from the Racket Club.
that's what I'm
sure.
talking about. This is
Yeah,
where it
right.
came across.
Right.
Then they rechanneled it, they dug it out. Like, we had to dig out our own stream where we were,
Yeah.
and I can recall how it was done.
Which one was that went through the visitation villa?
That was it, it
That was
started
it.
there,
Yeah.
it originated there.
And then Zarelli took it, put cement over it.
No, he had nothing to do with that. No, no.
Well, Ponce de Leon.
Ponce de Leon was
Leon.
totally separate from that.
Ponce
Oh,
de
yes,
Leon.
oh, you're right, you're right.
Yeah.
When he built
Yeah,
the
what
villa,
he's talking about
when he
now.
built the villa, he covered it.
Right, right.
covered
And
the
it went
spring.
right by Ernst.
Yeah,
What?
It just went straight across and Ernst, because Ernst had some trouble with water.
Well, it didn't go straight
No,
across.
it
the
didn't go
bridge. As a
straight
matter of
across.
fact,
It
there
went
was-
through
The
the
old
visitation
Ernst, you
villa.
know, on
No,
this
as a
side.
matter of fact, in those
Yeah.
days, there was a hill there.
Uh-huh.
And it had trees, and it was on the hill, and they had visitation villa there. And that was
And it
considerably
went
higher
through there.
than what, when they came in and put that in, they bulldozed the whole thing and made it level.
Was that like a wetland in there too at that
No,
time?
no,
There was
it was a
a-
high.
there was a
it
swamp
Oh, it was
right in the
springs, it
middle.
was springs.
A swamp?
There was a swamp, yeah.
Yeah.
It was, when
Like
they,
people store,
it's
too.
under
Because it was
Service
all
now.
woods.
There
But
was
it
a
wasn't
big-
really a
There
swamp,
was a swamp.
it was springs. Springs,
Spring
it was
bubble
up
down.
higher,
Yeah,
and they were flowing down from there.
That's about where the old Ernst.
Well,
Yeah, but I
The
mean,
old-
the level
Came
was
right at
higher.
the corner of the old.
You used to drive up to Visitation
Because
Villa.
I know
It
he was,
high.
they were having trouble.
It
with
wasn't
the-
down,
Visitation
in-
villa.
What's the name of the whole area?
entrance from Croaks and,
that's right, you drive in and you drive up.
Bob, as you were a young fellow cruising the area, tell me about Clover Creek. Wasn't it fairly straight from Gravely Lake Drive towards Old 99? It's almost a straight line.
that's the artificial channel.
Yeah.
Department of Engineers built the
That's when the.
Well, somebody built it, straightened it out originally
Yeah.
Yeah.
before that.
Ainsworth. They said it was Captain Ainsworth that did that. And then he ran sheep in the ditch to pack it so it would hold water. And he ran it straight in the current channel for Chambers, Clover Creek, into
Still,
Silicon Lake, yeah, Kimball's.
Mhm.
Uh,
So we have a pear tree that Ainsworth had planted in his pear orchard.
We live on the creek,
on-
Hmm.
on Clover Creek, and
Joey Wright has two of the old pear trees. They're about,
about 100 years old.
well, we heard that they were planted like in the late 1900s, so they'd be over 100 years old.
1800s, yeah.
I mean, 18.
That's up by the old.
Well,
That's
yeah,
up beyond
and,
the Armstrong
we've
farm.
taken very good care of
Yeah,
ours. We
there's-
moved in and it has been
I don't know
for
whether this
years.
was Armstrong or
Had it
Ainsworth, you see.
Just-
Armstrong was the
anything
one
that
that was
happened,
down
so
there,
pretty.
right,
Yeah.
where the bridge
Was it
went
Bear
over and
Creek?
where Zarelli put their development.
That's where we are.
Used to have a
Yeah,
whole
well, that
line
was
of
the old
cottonwoods
Armstrong
in front
farm.
of it, so it never got the
Armstrong,
sun.
okay.
And the first thing we did was.
And they had the water wheel, and it was lovely,
That's right,
but
yeah.
some kid got in there and got caught and got drowned.
That's right.
So that was the end of the
Last
water
year,
wheel.
after we had a congestion approved,
And that was in
we
Armstrong
had
farm.
pears, we
There
had
were two
thousands
ladies
of
there.
them that fell, they were like
Oh,
grape.
there.
Old Mrs.
Great.
Armstrong, yeah.
Yeah,
down.
and a
It
daughter
hasn't
or
been
sister or
sprayed.
something.
Question
So they
that's
aren't
come up
very
about the
pretty.
pears. The pears are
They
the
taste
ugliest
all
things
right.
you ever saw. I mean, they're gnarly and just ugly. But you take them,
Yeah.
right, they've got better flavor than a bark.
Yeah.
Delicious, but they're
Mike, can you put
ugly.
that in there for him?
See if I can figure this out.
I want you guys to watch the
thing
kind
I
of
wanna-
stories you tell about behavior in school. That's my kid.
You'd want them to think
Things
back
don't
then they
change
did
is what
that.
I'm learning. Things are the same.
By comparison, we were pretty
So
well.
what's having changed, in other words?
Feeding our sister. I don't know.
Only
They're
they're
telling
like
me.
kids think they have.
Usually on channel 3.
Bob, you went by streetcar down to high school?
No, he took the bus.
Was there a bus?
Yeah, I think it was the old Fagio bathtub on wheels. Elizabeth's mother was the one that got upset when the streetcars stopped, and what she did was start the junior high school.
When was that, the streetcar stop?
Huh?
29 or 30, or when was that?
27, I think. wasn't it?
Oh, wasn't it after that?
Or 28. No, there were two lines though. One,
Yeah,
There was two
one.
lines.
Well, I rode on the streetcar when I went to Park Lodge,
Rewind it first.
27, 28, 29, 30.
You got to Park Lodge on the streetcar.
From
I did it
downtown, you could go downtown.
Oh, yeah.
Like my dad, I had to go to the dentist. My dad took me to my eyes or something. Took me downtown in the morning, and
You got to transfer
then
it
I got on the streetcar and came to school.
And your dad had an Oakland, didn't he?
No,
Oh, he did too. He had an old Oakland.
never had an Oakland. He had a real.
A flying cloud?
Is there a station that flipped,
Yeah, I mean, this is the school. You can see
I didn't get that far. I said, you go
So
downtown,
it's gonna,
get on the bus to Civic Avenue, and it went out, see. Got up to Manitou, going through what's now Allen Golf Course, and remember going through and I ended up in Manitou Park, and then you get on this smaller, would clear out the Veterans Hospital. Well, it came right down here. There was a stop right over there by the little prison, the Prairie. Our stop was called Lakewood. It was over here, between here and Silicon Boulevard. Well, I always said it, I was a pioneer of Lakewood because our streetcar stop was called Lakewood. And I can't find anything else that was called Lakewood before Lakewood Colonial Center was built.
I had an interview with Mrs. Mann before she passed away about those early school years and trying to get the different schools together. That's why I was curious, between you and Bob. You went to Park Lodge, but then you went downtown?
No, I went to Clover Park Junior High School. Then I went to Stadium. Mrs. Mann, it was called, well, she was director of schools for
She was
years.
clerk of the school board.
This is Mrs. Mann's daughter.
Yeah, I know.
She could probably tell you all about it.
We lived next door to Elizabeth for 20 years, I know her.
Yeah, sort of.